We're here at the University of Michigan having conversations between liberal
and conservative students. Find common ground, win $20. Let's do something.
My name's Layla. I'm a senior here at U of M. And on the political spectrum, I would definitely say I lean more liberal. I wouldn't say all the way. I would definitely say more, I wouldn't say balanced, but if there really was an independent stance, I would take that stance. Okay.
Yeah, so I also kind of agree with you, but I would say definitely leaning more conservative. I understand the principles behind liberalism, but identify more with conservatism.
And what's your name?
Izzy.
For the first topic, does DEI provide equality for all?
Would you like to start?
Yeah, I think DEI at the core of its idea is a good idea, but I think the manifestation does not create equal opportunities for all.
And what about its manifestation gives you that impression?
So I can just speak from my personal example.
Right.
So DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion, usually based upon race, ethnicity, and sexual orientation. But for example, as a Jewish person that is technically a minority, it doesn't technically fit into those categories. So there are certain instances where we could be disadvantaged or other people could be advantaged in unequal opportunities in that sense.
So as you aforementioned, DEI, race, ethnicity, and sexual orientation is what it's aiming towards, correct?
Yes.
Jewish itself is a religion and an ethnicity, so it is aimed towards people as yourself, minority, also speaking as minority, as Asian and Black.
Mm-hmm.
It is aimed towards people like us to benefit from it. Of course, at its core, it's great, and not everything in manifestation goes, like when you execute something, it doesn't go according to plan. But I do believe DEI does provide opportunities for all. I can't ignore the fact that since U of M has basically followed federal ruling that with DEI disappearing or being more watered down and renamed, that there have been more Black people on campus. There have been, and affirmative action disappearing, as we all know that happened.
Yeah.
We've seen more minorities on campuses is true. However, looking at, let's consider Trump's internship. The presidency always has internship opportunities occurring once. One time during their presidency. If we looked at Trump's selection of students for his presidency, we only see white people. We see no people of color. However, if we compare that to Obama's presidency and we look at the students that he chose for his program, we see a majority of minorities. And I think that is thanks to DEI. And of course, when Trump or Obama or whoever's reviewing those applicants, I don't believe that they're mainly looking at race. So I feel like with DEI, it's giving those minorities, such as yourself and I, an opportunity to shine more. Not saying that we weren't shining before, but it's like I feel like we kind of fall underneath I guess the main white population in America, if that makes sense.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm not sure if you know that Judaism isn't technically defined as an ethnicity and technically doesn't fall under any of the blankets or buckets of DEI. So we technically get lost in the entire system. And then I also just want like a little follow-up question. Right. I don't know anything about the internship of the presidential process, right. So I really can't comment on that much, other than the fact that in my personal experience, when you usually have a dilution of DEI, it's that you're making a decision, let's just say, for example, if you're applying for a job.
Right.
You're making that decision based off of the best possible candidate, right?
Right, the best possible candidate, correct.
Right. So in that sense, you don't know, I mean, I personally don't know the reasoning behind why Obama's candidates were chosen or why Trump's candidates were chosen, but the whole reasoning with that in hopes of it being the best possible candidate.
Right, the best possible candidate. And sometimes the best possible candidate doesn't get to come through because they weren't met with that opportunity. For example, with DEI disappearing on campus, we've lost scholarships towards Latina and Latino populations. We've lost it for the indigenous populations here at U of M, and therefore they lose funding or the chance to even get into the school. So yes, they got accepted to U of M, but if they don't have that money to come in, to even enroll, as we all know, it costs $300 to enroll, and then you have your tuition in a state or out of state. If you don't have that money, how are you able to take that opportunity and shine and be chosen as the best applicant? Because there are so many disadvantaged communities that have amazing people that
Right.
are full of potential, but they never get the chance to shine because there's no opportunities or resources for them. And DEI provides those resources.
So how does DEI provide those resources when the whole point of the dissolution of DEI was that the departments got moved back to what they were like originally labeled? So like, for example, I think the Multicultural Center for, I don't know what it is at Michigan, but the Latinx community, or Latino, etc. Wouldn't that just, they took the money and they put it back into that center. So wouldn't that center, then I don't think any of the scholarships would have gone away. They just were moved. That was the whole point of the delusion of DEI, was that they didn't have this department where everything was based off of race and ethnicity, but that each of the funding and buckets went back to their own respective centers, and then those centers are now operating almost exactly the same under no DEI.
I don't particularly know what it looks like for U of M in itself. However, looking at newsletters and just protests that have been happening on campus in communication to those students, is that yes, that money has gone back to the, I'm going based off what you said, that money goes back to those main centers, like those main hubs, and they can choose how to use that money, right?
Right.
But they can choose, right? It's not that it's now catered towards those populations. They can choose if they want to cater towards those populations, right? And I think that yet it's like they're not operating exactly the same, because now they have this freedom to choose how to use that money instead of.
But I guess I don't understand in that, where does the DEI reasoning come from that? So you're saying it's their choice. Okay, so then why can't the center make the choice to have the, if you're saying so many people are disadvantaged,
Right.
why would the center not want to, if you're saying Latinx people are disadvantaged, why wouldn't they want to increase attendance and delegate that money that way?
I think we're ignoring the big issue here, is that America itself is built on racism. Michigan itself is not the most inclusive. It is a diverse school, because we're in, like, the state of Michigan is very diverse, but U of M still has a predominantly white population. And yes, they want to increase attendance, but why would they increase attendance for disadvantaged? Like, I feel like we're forgetting that America's base of education, America's base itself is racist. America is racist. It's systemic. It's in our system, and they can increase attendance with these disadvantaged minorities. But if they're racist, right, why would they do that when they just get more white people? I mean, there's been many times when I've spoken to people on this campus, and I'm like, I've spoken to people, no offense to these people, I'm sure they worked hard like the rest of us, but sometimes it really comes down to who has more money, right? And what background are they coming from?
I understand that, but again, why does moving the funds of DEI change who has money and who doesn't?
It doesn't change if there's money or not. It changes where that money is going. Yes, the Multicultural Lounge has that money, and they could make the choice to make scholarships that are catered towards the disadvantaged populations. But now that DEI is gone as a written law or whatever it was written as, they don't have to. So they could write scholarships, but now they're open for everyone. They're not open for the people that don't.
But that's not true.
I don't know exactly, but I'm saying if that money, if they have the choice to choose where that money is going, they don't have to cater it towards those disadvantaged populations.
No, but they do, because it is going back to its own multicultural center. So if it's the Frankel Jewish Center, then it's going to go there. If it's the multicultural center, it's going to go there. They each have, the Asian, Asian Pacific Islander Center. They all have their own.
Right.
They are only going to open up scholarships to those people.
And have you seen these scholarships being open? Because from my experience, I've only seen these scholarships being closed.
I wouldn't know, but I still don't think that it's DEI's fault for them not being open, if that makes sense. It's somebody's choice in that organization, not DEI itself, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, so
what's our baseline common ground always?
I think that DEI is not the basis of opportunity, but the people who run the centers are.
I would say so.
Yeah.
For our second topic, is Israel committing a genocide?
Israel, I definitely think it's a genocide. If we're pulling up, I don't know the definition of genocide, but I definitely say it's just a mass murdering of people. I feel like when this all started about a year or 2 years ago, and I was seeing what was happening on both sides, I didn't know too much, and there was a lot of protests happening here on the Diag. I went to both sides and spoke to them about what was going on, why is it happening, and this has been a war that's been going on for years. My stepdad himself was in the Army and is a veteran. And honestly, both sides have committed murder, and we can't ignore that fact. But however, the numbers at which Israel has committed murder is considered a genocide. They have lost mass amounts of their population, mass amounts of land. It's ridiculous.
So I understand what you're saying, and I think that the discussion is terrible. I just want to maybe reiterate, the definition of genocide is a mass murdering in hopes to annihilate a population. And in that, I want you to think about how first of all, 1,200 Israelis were murdered on October 7th, and then they took over 200 Israelis hostage. The second those hostages were all returned, they stopped shooting, they stopped attacking, they pulled out all their troops. So if a genocide is a mass annihilation of a certain group of people, it would not fit that definition, correct? Considering once they got back what they wanted, aka what was taken from them, then they stopped. So it does not fit that definition.
You're saying Israel stopped when they got back their hostages?
Yes.
This is not true. We have seen time and time again, even after they called ceasefire twice, that they continued bombing. They continued bombing Palestine. Palestine returned off of them, and yes, Israel was also returning Palestinian citizens. However, they continued to bomb the population after ceasefire was called.
Are you sure that that's true?
I am sure that is true. It was on many news networks. And you see the families. There's charities going on for those families that are continuously losing people. I mean, my friend.
Fact check. I'm sorry.
Oh yes.
You guys want to?
Yeah,
Sure. Yes. Yeah, that'd be great. Actually.
Okay. There was a ceasefire in place signed by both sides.
Right.
The hostages, all living hostages, were returned.
Yes.
And there's still 15 dead hostages in Gaza that Hamas is holding still. And after the ceasefire was signed, Hamas initially broke the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, and the war has continued because Hamas broke the ceasefire.
Okay. Well, now that we consider a definition, because I wasn't informed about that, I still think, well, now since it's not ceasefire anymore, if it doesn't fall under the definition of genocide, no, but I definitely think what they're doing is wrong. If that is our common ground.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it genocide then if we're following that definition. I didn't know the definition, but I still think this is a senseless war. I think war in itself, no matter what countries are doing it, is pointless, and we need to stop. Both sides need to stop. I don't know why Hamas broke the ceasefire when this was their chance for their population to be free, but
I agree.
So
Yeah.
Did we find common ground there?
Yes.
I think so.
Did we label the common ground?
It is not labeled a genocide. Yes.
Okay.
Awesome. Guys, love it. For our third topic, should abortion be legal?
I definitely think abortion should be legal. I don't understand at all why I don't know how to explain it, why government has the right to tell women what to do with their bodies. Even if I've heard of like, I've watched debates, and a lot of debates from the other side is saying that it is, we're killing babies that are 8 months, 9 months into pregnancy. And studies have shown that that's not what's happening.
Yeah.
It's usually very early into term, or when the mother is facing health issues, or her health isn't in danger. And a lot of times when abortion was legal nationwide, the doctor would ask the guardian, the spouse, or whatever, in the case that there is a
You don't need to tell me. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do believe that abortion should be legal. I mean, in the views of conservative Judaism, like, in the mother's life, if the mother's life is at risk, then you have to protect the mother at all costs, but you still need to protect life as much as possible. So it's only for extreme cases.
Right.
But it should be legal.
It should be, yeah.
Yes.
For our fourth topic, should illegal immigrants be deported?
See, I feel like my view on this is very gray. coming from Canada, we also have this problem. And also, I lived in Japan, looking at the issue right now with them sending 50,000 Indians, 50,000 Africans undocumented to Japan for cheap labor. I think it's really fucked up.
Yeah.
I think it's really messed up. And with illegal immigrants, I really feel like they should be documented.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
I think that is what it is. They should
Yeah.
be documented.
Exactly.
And if they've been here for years, working, living, they have a family, and they're providing in a society,
Yeah.
the government should provide ways in which they can become documented, and they're no longer called these illegal immigrants
Right.
that get deported and then separated from their families. So
Yeah.
that's my take.
Yeah. I do think that they should potentially be deported. I think just having known many people that have applied for a green card and applied for citizenship, I think it's a very difficult process that a lot of people put a lot of work into.
Yes.
And I understand that there's very difficult situations that people can be leaving from, but
Right.
that doesn't mean you should just skip the line. I think at the end of the day, I think you have to do it legally and you have to do it the right way.
Yes, yes.
Because
Legally,
many
yes, and
people
apply.
are proud of it, and
Yes.
yeah, exactly.
I agree. I feel like people
Yeah.
should apply for it legally. Like my mother, she also came to this country, and she almost was deported when Trump was first elected in 2016. And she went through the process of applying for the green card,
That's
doing
good.
it properly.
Yeah.
And it was hard. She almost got deported, but she made it, you know.
That's great.
And she's here and
That's
she's
great.
documented. And I agree with you.
That's great.
Just do it the right way.
Yeah.
For our fifth and final topic, is capitalism good for America?
All right. I don't know a lot about capitalism or economics. I'm really bad at it. I'm not going to lie. However, just from other conversations that I've had with people, hearing about how capitalism was basically transformed when Reagan ran and with the trickle-down economics. Trickle-down economics is a lie.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
The poor get poorer and the rich get richer. And I feel like capitalism as a concept might work.
Yeah.
However, right now in practice, I mean, for years with this practice, 50, 60 years, it has not worked. So
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's benefiting our society.
Yeah. I think at its core, it's a good idea. I think America being the land of opportunity,
Right.
I think it is the best probably political system we could have, because it is like you work for what you get, and then you try
exactly.
to build your way up, which
Right.
ideally does make sense.
Exactly.
I mean, I think there's been a lot of different barriers in this country that have been put on place on top of capitalism that
Exactly.
have maybe made it so it has not manifested in the best form. But I do think it's the best system
Yes.
for our country.
I don't know what capitalism looks like ideally, again, coming from a stance of not knowing that much about economics, but from going to different countries, travel, Canada, whatever, it's like capitalism is very much ingrained globally. So
Yes.
it must be good in some way.
Yeah.
There must be some hope. And yeah, I agree with you. If it's just executed the right way, it should work. But currently, no.
Yeah.
It's not working.
Okay, and guys, for the final bonus question, if you guys want a bonus question.
Sure.
Regardless of your political beliefs, do you both believe that you could be friends?
I really feel like it depends. I think we could be friends.
Yeah, I think
we're
we could be
chill.
friends. Yeah,
I mean, I feel like with liberal and conservatism, it really has gone really
Yeah.
far on both sides.
For
and I
sure.
feel like if I met someone on the really far side, I feel like people on the far sides of both sides, that comes down to morals. And I can't be friends with someone who doesn't align with my morals, if that makes sense.
100% agree. Yeah.
So,
Awesome. And then, are you guys down to hug it out?
Yeah, of course.
you're not sick though, right?
No, no,
You
no,
know what I mean?
no. Perfect.
All right, thank you.